What's up, everybody? This is Connor and Joshua with Chamber One Tactical, and today we've got probably one of the coolest products that we've been able to review in a while. Let us know what it is, Joshua.
Well, here's a hint. We got 1, 2, and 3 stages.
So this is actually Joshua's product that he went out and found and bought for himself. So Joshua, I'm going to let you explain what it is.
Yeah, so this is, I believe they call it the Detent Tactical FRT trigger, is I believe what the name is.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit different than most FRTs, but it is a force reset. But this one's actually a 3-stage FRT. So you have safe, semi, and FRT.
Let's get into it. All right, so like Joshua said, this is different than the rest of the FRT triggers or forced reset triggers,
Right.
because it is a 3-stage trigger. So you have your safe position, you have your semi position, and then you have your FRT or the fun position,
Right.
in my opinion. And the first thing we'll talk about, because it is very important for this product, is price point.
Right.
So Joshua, if you want to let us know what that is.
Yeah, so when I was checking, this was purchased a little bit before Christmas of 2024. Okay, so normally around that time, they were around $700.
Woo.
Yeah, kind of pricey. And then I got mine, at the time it was a deal, free shipping, $530. But I believe you brought up that you saw a deal recently in, April of 2025.
Yep.
Of how much was it?
Gun Dot Deals had it at $4.99.
Yeah, so even cheaper than I found it.
Yep.
Which I did get free shipping. I don't know if that was free shipping or not. But so it seems like the prices are actually going down, which is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite expensive, to be honest with you.
So the things we'll talk about is installing it, how difficult or easy it is to install, the actual usability of it, how's the trigger break in normal semi, is it kind of a finicky product, and is it better than the binary triggers, because there are some different options you can have for getting a couple more rounds off a little faster, not in one trigger pull. These are all multiple trigger pulls.
There's multiple
it's
functions.
Not full auto.
Yes.
But kind of running through those different things, because when you're spending this much money, you want to make sure it's the best product you can get.
Right.
If you're going to drop $500-600 on a trigger. So the first thing, going over installation, it was very easy. Just like any other trigger, this is a full drop-in trigger. So all you do is take out the original trigger that you have in there, and this does come with pins that have screws on each side to keep that locked in, because there's a lot more movement going on in this trigger than a standard trigger. So they want to make sure these pins don't just fly out, because that does happen every once in a while. You'll have pins start walking on you. So and I believe it's because the springs aren't in the same position to where they can lock your pins in. So they have to make sure they got screws on both sides. So very easy to install, not difficult whatsoever.
Easier than a binary, for sure.
Definitely easier than binary, And you don't have to get your different buffer systems and all that kind of stuff, because Franklin Armory, I think, do they come with 2 different springs?
But they do come with them. So,
So sometimes you have to kind of mess with that a little bit.
Right.
So installation, check. That's not a problem whatsoever. So even if you're not a gunsmith, you should be able to do this. But if you're not comfortable, see a gunsmith.
Yes.
And then if you want to tell us about the one hiccup that we found when putting the upper and lower back together once you have this trigger installed.
Yes, so, and we can probably, I don't know, will YouTube let us show
Probably
it?
not.
Probably not. So
this video is not going to be monetized anyway, so we probably can show it.
That's true. So, when putting on the upper and the lower, typically what I would do, I don't know if this is the approved way from all the expert gun people out there, but I always put in the first pin here and then kind of rotate it and put in the second one. That really won't work with this at all. So what you got to do, and what we found is easier, make sure that the hammer is actually down, and then you kind of have to wiggle the upper and lower together and push in that back pin first, and then this one will automatically be lined up. But you kind of have to wiggle it.
Like you said, there's no point in us not showing it.
Right.
So the piece he's talking about, I'll let him get that off first.
Yeah.
The piece he's talking about is right here. So here's your hammer. So when you pull the trigger, this hammer is going to fall forward, and it's going to hit your firing pin. So this little piece right here has to be moved out of the way for the trigger to work. So when he's talking about putting the upper on, you kind of have to wiggle it just a little bit to where it activates that little piece, sets it down, and the upper will then set properly, and you put your pins in.
And again, we found it easier to have the hammer down, if I can get it down.
Yep.
Make sure you have the hammer down. It makes it a little bit easier putting the upper back on.
Right. So you want to show them?
Sure.
All right. So take your lower, take your upper, and like Joshua was saying, he would normally put the front in like that. Go ahead and push his front pin in and then just close it and put the last pin in. That's not going to work. So the best thing to do is get them set. And all I do is I kind of run it, and you'll hear it go into place. And it's just like, it's easy as that. So it's not a huge deal, but it is different than just being able to put your upper on.
Right.
There's that little bit of up and down movement that you have to do. And just so that everybody's clear, it's holding your lower and you're rocking your upper front to back. And you'll hear it, that little piece set down, and you can go ahead and put your pins in. So it's a little different, not anything impossible.
Yep.
But like Joshua said, the most important thing is letting that hammer be in the fired position so that you can actually get that thing on there. Because we have found, I think every time we've tried, if the hammer is cocked, you pretty much can't get it on there. Right. I don't know why that would be, but I'm sure somebody can let us know. But everything else works on the gun. There's nothing different. Obviously, it's just your trigger. You're dropping it in there. And the fact that you do have the safety selector that has 3 positions. Now, the safety selector is ambi. So we have a longer side on the shooter's position, or the left-hand side. And then you have a little bit shorter selector.
You can reverse them if you want.
Yeah, and you can reverse them. I'm sure they thought about that, and that's why it's like that.
Right.
But it's a decent safety selector.
Decent. I thought it was a little. It felt cheap, to be honest with you.
Well, the actual pin, or the detent.
Both. So the actual selector, I don't know. It just, I'm used to my what do you call them? The
Timber Creek.
The Timber Creek 45 degree. Even just the actual selector itself being a little bit more aggressive and feeling a little bit higher quality. This one just kind of felt a little bit cheaper. I don't know. Is that polymer?
No, I'm sure it's aluminum, but it is a kind of a cheap finish.
Yeah.
And I agree with Joshua on the detent. The detent is horrible. We're so used to Timber Creek, and Radian has pretty good detents too, but Timber Creek really stands out to us because of the price point. But the detent's horrible on this because a lot of times you can actually get it stuck halfway through, and you keep having to push, and there's no clear
it's not near as tactile.
position. Right. And I mean, that's not. If a trigger like this is not going to be great at everything, because they're having to skimp in different places to be able to get that FRT to actually work properly. So I get that, but if you're a person that would really bother you, it not being super tactile, then you may not want this trigger.
And it's not that bad. I'm just noting it, and that way you're not surprised if you want to go and get. If
you're saying Radian Timber Creek is one of the best one of the best safety selectors you can get based off of the tactile, and that a mil spec is kind of just average, this is below average as far as the detent and the throw, because even on a standard mil spec, the detent has enough buildup that when you go to push, it usually follows through and goes ahead without you having to keep tension on it the whole time, just building up pressure, and it will go to the fire when you give that last bit of pressure to break the detent. So it's not that big of a deal. It's just something to mention because the price point. It's not as good as what you would think it would be, but that's not what it's supposed to shine for. It's supposed to shine because it's FRT. So not a huge deal, but just to let you guys know. Last thing about the trigger, before we get into the fun stuff and how it actually works, but the trigger pull is not bad, but it's not. If you're thinking that it's going to be like a CMC or Geisley or any of these tie-in with a really clean break, this is not your trigger either. This is not something that you're going to go and like take long distance shots with at all. The semi is, again, it's not bad. It's actually better than I thought, and I personally believe that it's better than the binary trigger brake.
I would say it's better than a mil-spec trigger too.
Yeah, because it's definitely lighter.
Yeah.
It's definitely lighter. The brake is pretty clean.
Yeah.
It's decent. There may be a little bit of mush in there, but not a lot. I mean, it's actually a pretty good brake.
Right.
And it's, like I said, definitely to me better than the Franklin Armory binary trigger
That's
brake.
true.
So, kind of giving it a little bit of, props there. It is a pretty good brake for it having 3 positions. So, Joshua, if you want to tell us, did we have any malfunctions with this?
With semi-auto?
Sure.
No, not with semi-auto. No, so when we did do FRT, we did find out a couple things. So it just so you guys know how it works, right? And there's a lot of good videos online that kind of shows you like a 3D model of how it works, and you can kind of see it, which is really cool. But it uses the inertia of the bolt going backwards to leverage the trigger to go back forward.
Yep.
So just pretend it's like a lever, right? If this goes this way, the trigger's going that way, and it resets your finger. So with that being said, is what we found with our lower powered ammunition, our 5.56, or sorry, our 223 55 grain, was a little bit more inconsistent.
Yeah.
Right. So it would work with this trigger, and it'd go burr, but it might stop and have like a malfunction. But we never had any issues with any of our better 55 grain. Like we shoot some pretty cheap stuff. And our 77 grain, no malfunctions there.
I think every one was a light primer strike, wasn't it? We never had any feeding issues. It was all just light primer strikes at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think so.
So all we would do is rack the gun just enough to reset the trigger, and it was fine. So
I think it was just kind of an inertia thing, like just getting that energy back to fully reset the trigger and all that. But when we had our more power in our 300 blackout, we had no issues.
Yeah.
So it's just something to note if you're running lower power ammo.
So here's a very good learning moment for you guys that may not have a ton of experience in using different parts on ARs, because there's so much aftermarket out there that you can really get lost and really mess up your gun because you're using all this aftermarket stuff that's not supposed to really be used together. So if you're going to use this, if you're using any kind of different buffer system, heavier buffer spring or buffer, or you're using that captured buffer system that's supposed to help with recoil management, this trigger's not going to work. Or not going to work well. I mean, you may get like a few rounds off, but it's got too much pressure. You're already building up more pressure on the trigger because it's forcing that finger forward. So you are going to need to run a standard buffer and buffer spring for this to work properly.
So I would definitely not run an H3. That was too heavy, and it was slowing it down. What we were running it with was a H2. Yeah. And honestly, if you're still having some issues, like you like running the lower powered ammo, you could probably go with the H1 and be fine.
Maybe.
But yeah, we did it. I forgot. I'm glad you brought that up. The H3, which is what that silent buffer was, it was a little bit heavier. It didn't really work with that H3, so we just went back to the H2.
We tried it multiple times. We thought maybe it was because we at once were using it on a new upper. Yeah. We're thinking, well, maybe it's not broke in, but it didn't matter. Every time we went to use it, it did not work with that specific buffer. So, again, you got to be careful when there's so much out there that you can change on these things. Some of these are not going to be compatible with each other. So you may be able to have a standard trigger and that buffer system and it work fine, but them together is not. It's going to cause malfunction. So just make sure you're testing your products, and that's why we bring this stuff up, so you guys don't waste money on something that's not going to work. But make sure you test stuff before you just throw it in your truck or put it next to your bed and think, oh, it's going to work. But the last thing we'll talk about is how much fun this thing was.
Well, and just a note.
Are you cutting off my fun?
I am cutting it off. So make sure that you have a full auto rated bolt carrier.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point.
Obviously, all the uppers that we shot with it. So we shot this BCM. We shot your Arrow 14.5. Radical. Diamondback. PSA 300 Blackout 10.5 inch. And was that it?
I think that's it.
Okay, so that's about it.
Yeah.
The PSA 16 inch.
Oh yeah.
Yep, forgot about that one.
Yep.
So all of those had the full auto bolt carrier, and they ran pretty consistent. We pretty much got the same results out of every single upper that we would slap on here. So Just a note there.
Which is nice that we didn't have any issues moving from gun to gun or upper to upper.
Right. And the reason you need that bolt carrier is when it comes back to hit that, I don't know what you call that little piece, but we'll just say the little reset thing. I don't know. It's got to actually make contact. And if you don't have a full auto, it's got a lot less material and it'll never reach it. So.
But moving on to what I was trying to get to.
Yes,
the fun part.
The fun part.
This thing is absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
And so much fun to use.
It's awesome.
I mean, it's
legal.
It's worth every penny. I know it's a lot of money, but it's worth every penny when you actually shoot it and you see how much fun it is. And it's only fun because it's reliable. You know, it's only fun if, like Joshua said, there's certain things you got to make sure you're doing. Make sure you've got decent ammo, and make sure you've got all the right stuff that's in your gun. But once you get all that and you go to use this thing, it is so much fun. And I know I'm kind of skipping around, but I would use this way more often than I would binary.
Oh, for sure.
The binary, there's so much more movement you got to do, and it's a lot of times people's heads get in the way, and they think they're trying to work the trigger faster than they. I mean, there's so much that people don't don't get right on binary triggers. This thing really does a lot of the brunt work for you because
so
it's resetting.
Than a binary.
I mean, most people would think this is full auto, and it's not. I don't even want to say full auto because it's not. It's force reset.
It's fun reset.
So which is crazy because this is so much money. I usually don't recommend stuff that's this much, but I would 100% recommend
Well, it didn't
this.
come out of your bank account, so
That's
maybe that's why you're recommending
I'm just going to use this one. Or maybe I'll pick up that one that's $4.99. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would 100%. I mean, if you're one of those people that you want a product like this, you've been thinking about getting binary, the binary trigger is not that much different in price. I mean, let's be honest. It's about $300, maybe more. So it's not that much difference in price, and this is so much more fun to use.
Yep.
You can still actually stay on target because you're not having to move your finger. You're not really having to think about your finger. You're just pulling the trigger, and yes, it's multiple trigger pulls, but you're not having to reset the trigger. It's resetting for you. So it's a lot easier to actually get on target and stay on target. The main thing we actually were really noticing the difference is when you try to walk with it. When you're trying to walk and change targets, that last thing that you don't have to think about, which is moving your finger, it's way easier to shoot this thing while you're moving than it would be the binary trigger. And we're saying that because we've had experience with the binary. We still own a binary trigger, even though we don't use it anymore. Because we have that. It's definitely a better system than a binary trigger, in my opinion. What would you say?
I agree.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're kind of debating whether to go with this or a standard FRT, because this isn't new technology anymore, right? But the fact that this is a 3-stage is what sold it for me. Yep. I didn't want to buy an FRT because I still want to run it semi-auto, right? I want to be able to control it. But the times that I'm in an environment where I can do the force reset, guess what? I have that option, right? So that was the biggest selling point to me, is being able to have both. And so I'm glad that they finally came out with it.
Yeah, it's 100% worth it to me.
All I'm going to say is if you're going to buy it, just expect that you might need to play with the buffer system.
Yeah.
Maybe lighten it up, maybe stiffen it up. I don't know. But there might be one thing that you have to change, and that might be it.
Yep. But, I mean, at this point, I would recommend it. I think it's a cool product, and I really like it, and I probably will go get one for myself. I think Joshua feels the same way. It's a cool product.
Yep.
Because it's fun and because you still have semi-auto. That's one of the biggest things, is that you can just use it on semi whenever you want to, and there's no difference really at all between that and a normal trigger. So, but if you guys have any questions for us, let us know down in the comments section. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.